Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, it's possible this podcast is shorter today. It depends on how much I ramble on these few topics that I selected. But, we're going to start off with Kevin Stefanski talking about Mahomes' impact on the game and comparing it to Steph Curry's impact on basketball. And, I think they are very similar in terms of success and talent. I think a lot of younger sports fans really take a liking to them because of their style of play. But a lot of all-time greats are actually not as emulated as Mahomes and Curry are. You know, there's a lot of younger football players that are trying to emulate what Mahomes does. You know, and when Curry came onto the scene, there were a lot of people trying to emulate what he did. But, you know, you don't see a lot of that with, like, Peyton Manning or Joe Montana. You don't see any of it with Tom Brady. No one tries to emulate what he did, even though he was a 7-time champion. You know, so it is odd. It's... What I'm saying is it's the flashiest athletes that get emulated most. Just because they bring the most entertainment, you know? And, you know, I do think Steph had a bit of a different influence on the NBA than Mahomes has had, because Steph completely changed the point guard position. It was initially just the facilitator of the offense, and then, you know, Magic kind of changed that when he became the top scorer for the Lakers. Magic also changed the position because he was 6'9", and could pass for point guard, so that was new. And now you got Steph with, adding a 3-point shot and a dominant scorer, which was never anything a point guard really had until, like I just said, Magic Johnson. You know, but yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, when people do like NFL players to NBA players comparisons, I feel like Steph and Mahomes are usually in that. They're usually in that post. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times people compare Steph to Mahomes, and I kind of see why. You know, I do think that they're both fan favorites in their sport, and I think both of them have had a major influence on the game. You know, both of them, once they had their first good year, people were hooked, pretty much. Like, once Steph won MVP in 2015, he never looked back. He was great since then. When Mahomes came onto the scene in 2018, he's been great since then. Fans have, for the most part, I know some people are tired of him winning, but I think for the most part, fans seem to like seeing Mahomes play. I think they both draw big audiences. You know, the Warriors are still, along with the Lakers, the most televised team for this upcoming season. Because Steph, he draws a crowd better than pretty much anyone but LeBron James does in the NBA right now. Alright, so Aaron Rodgers talked about camp. He made a comment. I don't really know what the question was, but I know he said camp is much harder this year than it was last year. And I can imagine that. Camp probably gets tougher as you get older. But it is interesting how quickly things can change in an NFL team. They don't really. That's what I prefer about NFL teams to like NBA teams and such, is they don't. A lot of them don't really live in the past, right? Like whatever happened last year was last year's problem, and they just move on to the next year. Especially with Aaron Rodgers here. Like last year, it was like, he was viewed as the one calling the shots. It was like, okay, we'll get you Allen Lazard, we'll get you Randall Cobb, we'll get you Nathaniel Hackett for your offensive coordinator so you can do whatever you want. We'll do what you want. But this year, Robert Saleh called Aaron Rodgers out. He said, we're fining you for skipping mandatories. So pretty quickly, Rodgers has gone from the guy that was very much in control of the Jets, similar to the way Tom Brady was kind of controlling the Bucs when he brought in Gronk, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown. He brought in the guys that he wanted on the team. And but even the Bucs, they transitioned quickly. They didn't. Once Brady left, it was like, all right, Baker's the next guy up. Let's move on. And they made the playoffs this year. So, with the NFL, you just keep moving. It doesn't stop for anyone. I feel like the Cavs in basketball, they kind of took a while to move on after LeBron left, but I feel like it's better to just move on to the next thing, because I feel like they wasted a lot of time being at the bottom of the league when they could have spent more time focusing on rebuilding. But anyway, the main part of today's podcast, I wanted to talk about how each rookie quarterback looks thus far